After dawn. Chapter 1, The Fall from the Altar. Ruo Shui, who used to be the top flower in the entertainment industry, has countless fans, endorsed countless brands, and starred in countless popular dramas. However, it all collapsed overnight. That day, Ruo Shui returned to the hotel from the recording of the show, but suddenly received a call from the agent. The agent on the other end of the phone spoke in a hurried and incoherent tone. Ruo Shui, something happened. Someone on Weibo posted photos of you secretly and some unbearable videos. Everyone is saying that you are having an affair with a married male star. Ruo Shui's heart instantly sank to the bottom. She understands that once such a scandal is exposed, the impact on her will be devastating. She immediately opened Weibo, and what caught her eye was a screen full of black fan messages, countless accusations, insults, and abuse, as if all her efforts had disappeared in an instant. Get out of the entertainment industry and don't appear in front of us again. It's a shame to be a woman like you. Ruo Shui, hook up with a married man, and dare to be a female star. These vicious words spread quickly, and Ruo Shui's fans dropped by 10 million in an instant, and all endorsements and jobs were cancelled one by one. She fell from the high altar in an instant, and became a street rat, and everyone shouted and beat her. A few days later, Ruo Shui was told by her agent that all her financial sources had been cut off, and there were even many black fans who publicly threatened her and made her disappear from this circle. She sat in her empty apartment, feeling like everything was falling apart, the despair in her heart almost making her breathless. Until, suddenly, a strange phone call came. Ruo Shui. A cold voice came from the other end. Yes, you are. There was a slight wariness in her tone. I'm Gu Yuchen, director. The man's voice was cold and unfathomable, as if coming from an iceberg. Director Gu? I've heard your name. Ruo Shui was slightly stunned. She didn't expect a director to come to contact her so soon. I have a low-budget film and I need a female lead right now. I've seen your work, and although the current situation is a bit peculiar, I think you fit for the role. Gu Yuchen's tone was unwavering, as if he didn't care about her past. However, my reputation, Ruo Shui hesitated, knowing that her current situation was not suitable for taking any job. Gu Yuchen interrupted her, I don't care about your reputation, and I don't care about your past. I just need you right now, to be able to make this movie. Well, I promise you. Ruo Shui gritted her teeth and decided to accept this offer, no matter what, she couldn't just give up on herself. Chapter 2, Cohabitation Initiation. Under Gu Yuchen's arrangement, Ruo Shui came to the apartment he rented. It was a simple, clean little apartment, without too much frills, but it exuded an air of calm and order. Gu Yuchen stood at the door and looked at her lightly. This is where you live, and you'll take care of everything. Gu Yuchen's voice was cold and ruthless, and his tone was also tough that could not be refuted. What do you mean? Ruo Shui was a little confused. Gu Yuchen spoke without hesitation, 3 rules. First, the rent is paid on a monthly basis, so there is no bargaining. Second, you're in charge of hygiene, and I don't want to see messy. Third, meals must be 3 dishes and 1 soup, and must be nutritionally balanced. I don't ask you to do it well, but you have to do it. Gu Yuchen's tone was resolute, as if he was giving an order. Ruo Shui's eyes widened, and she couldn't believe that the young director was so indifferent. You live with me like this? Gu Yuchen frowned and said coldly, yes, this is the condition of our cooperation, please abide by it. Ruo Shui was a little at a loss for a while. It's not that she hasn't heard of Gu Yuchen's name, this young returnee director is known as the Prince of Cold Noodles, never has too much contact with the outside world, and is very cold to stars. Although there are few of his works, each of them has caused a sensation in the film critics' world and has an excellent reputation. She never thought that she would live with such a person. However, life wasn't as bad as she thought. Although Gu Yuchen was indifferent, he did not interfere too much with her, and even gave her some guidance in his work. He asked her to perform in the movie, whether it was emotion or action, to the extreme, without a trace of slackness. At every rehearsal, he personally guides and makes suggestions for improvement. Ruo Shui gradually discovered that Gu Yuchen is not only an indifferent director, but also has an extremely persistent heart for art. He was unsmiling, but extremely attentive to his work, and could almost say that every one of his instructions carried an irrefutable authority. You can do the best. Gu Yuchen occasionally said this, although his tone was flat, it always made people feel an inexplicable power. Chapter 3, The Irresistible Attraction. As the days passed, the relationship between Ruo Shui and Gu Yuchen was also quietly changing. She discovers that while he is ruthless, he also has a soft side. Whenever she encounters difficulties or is depressed, he will always support her silently behind her. Once, Ruo Shui encountered an extremely difficult emotional scene during filming. Her emotions couldn't fully enter the role, and she failed to meet Gu Yuchen's requirements several times. She began to doubt herself, and even wanted to give up. You can't do it. Gu Yuchen's tone didn't carry much emotion, but the way he looked at her was a little different. And Ruo Shui lowered his head and said in a low voice, "I'm afraid I won't be able to do it well." Gu Yuchen walked up to her and patted her on the shoulder. "You can do it, because you know how to feel emotions better than anyone else." At that moment, Ruo Shui suddenly understood that Gu Yuchen was not cold-blooded and ruthless as she thought. His indifference was just an external defense, but he had an extremely firm belief in his heart. As the filming progressed, Ruo Shui's acting skills also improved, and Gu Yuchen's guidance made her more and more able to devote herself to the role, and her heart was unconsciously attracted to this indifferent man. She no longer just regarded Gu Yuchen as a director, but began to find some attractions in him that she couldn't ignore. Even though he never expressed affection for her, she involuntarily became dependent on him. Chapter 4, The Beginning of Love. A month later, the film was finally filmed, and Ruo Shui's performance was recognized by the director and other actors, and she gradually regained her confidence. And between her and Gu Yuchen, it seems that there is gradually more tacit understanding from the initial indifference. However, when she was about to return to the entertainment industry again and stand on her stage again, Gu Yuchen suddenly spoke, "Ruo Shui, the movie is finished, what are you going to do?" And Ruo Shui was stunned, and her heart was in chaos. Gu Yuchen didn't seem to push her away indifferently as she imagined, but looked at her with some deep meaning. She didn't know how to answer. Gu Yuchen moved a little closer and whispered, "You have to remember that no matter what your past is, the future is up to you. Are you willing, continue to walk with me?" This time, Ruo Shui's heartbeat was no longer due to fear, but because of the long-lost throbbing. She lowered her head and nodded slightly, a hint of determination flashing in her eyes. "I do." Gu Yuchen smiled slightly, and finally let down the defense in his heart. The two stand side by side, facing the future without fear. Chapter 5, The Wind Waves of Movie Fans. Ruo Shui and Gu Yuchen's movie was finally released nationwide. The name of this film is The Passing Years, which is Gu Yuchen's breakthrough work, with a unique style and delicate emotions, and has been widely praised by critics. Ruo Shui's performance amazed all the audience. She successfully got rid of the shadow of the past and regained public recognition with her own strength. However, behind this glamorous victory, there is a huge crisis. With the popularity of the film, Ruo Shui's name returned to the hot search list of social media, and the number of fans began to rise. But at the same time, some uneasy voices followed. Can Ruo Shui turn over with a movie? Can her past still be ignored? No matter how she acts or shoots, she can't change her true face. How can a director like Gu Yuchen look down on such a woman? There must be an ulterior secret behind this. These malicious comments reappeared on the internet, and even some old black fans reorganized themselves and launched a cyber attack on Ruo Shui. Even so, Ruo Shui found that she no longer felt helpless and panicked as before. She had already experienced a fall, and now she had learned how to stand up. When Gu Yuchen saw these discussions, he didn't show much emotion. He just calmly told Ruo Shui, "This is the reality you have to face. No matter how far you go, someone will try to pull you down. What you have to do is stick to your choice, no matter what the outside world says." His calm tone once again made Ruo Shui feel his rigor in his work and his concern for her. Chapter 6, The Choice of Love. With the success of the movie, Ruo Shui's job offers gradually increased. Major brands began to find her, and directors in the film industry began to invite her to participate in new works. Her career is thriving again, even more brilliant than ever. However, as time passed, Ruo Shui began to find that the contradictions in her heart became more and more obvious. Her career has been back on track, and countless people have expressed admiration for her talent, but she can't ignore the growing affection between herself and Gu Yuchen. Her cooperation with Gu Yuchen became more and more tacit, and the two spent more and more time together, and gradually, Ruo Shui found that she could no longer treat Gu Yuchen like before. Gu Yuchen's concern for her is not as direct as ordinary people. He does not express too much emotion, but he always supports her silently when she needs it. Every time she is tired from filming, Gu Yuchen will prepare hot water for her to relax. Every time she encounters difficulties, he will calmly guide her. These seemingly insignificant actions deeply touched Ruo Shui's heart. She began to find that her dependence on Gu Yuchen was not only at work, but also began to have an emotional component. She thought, should she express the emotion in her heart to Gu Yuchen? However, Gu Yuchen has always been cold and rational. Should he break this balance and challenge this delicate relationship? Just as she was struggling in her heart, Gu Yuchen suddenly gave her an amazing proposal. "Ruo Shui, I have a new movie plan. This time, I hope you can participate in the starring role." Ruo Shui was stunned. "I have a lot of work now, and there are so many invitations. I'm not sure if I can take it." Gu Yuchen stared at her. "I know you're busy, but this movie is a breakthrough for you. I can give you more time to prepare if you want, and during this time, I won't stress you out." His tone was still calm, but there was a firmness in his eyes that was hard to hide. This made Ruo Shui feel an inexplicable warmth. She knew that Gu Yuchen was not simply asking her for work, but was giving her a new chance, and even giving her a chance to break through herself. Chapter 7, Choices for the Future. Ruo Shui took a deep breath and hesitated for a moment in her heart. She knew that this was a rare opportunity, and maybe even a new start in her career. However, she knew better that it was not just a decision about work, but a choice in her life. Director Gu, she paused, and finally mustered up the courage to say, I want to continue to work with you, maybe, we can have more possibilities. A hint of surprise flashed in Gu Yuchen's eyes, but he quickly regained his composure. He nodded slightly, if you are ready, then we will go down together. At that moment, Ruo Shui finally understood that what he had chosen was not only the path of his career, but also a path to move forward side by side with Gu Yuchen. She is no longer the confused girl, nor is she the star who is pointed at by others. She has learned how to choose, to stick to her beliefs, and to face everything in the future. Chapter 8, Dawn. As the filming of the movie progressed, Ruo Shui's acting skills became more and more mature, and the relationship between her and Gu Yuchen gradually broke through the boundaries of previous cooperation. The two began to talk about everything, whether it was the bits and pieces of work or the small things in life, they could always find resonance. Gu Yuchen still maintained an indifferent appearance, but his care for Ruo Shui became more delicate. This subtle emotion made Ruo Shui gradually understand that the emotion between herself and Gu Yuchen has long been more than just the relationship between the director and the actor. And in the end, when that movie was released, it became one of the most watched works of the year, and Ruo Shui also won the honor of the most popular actress with this movie. She stood on the top again, and behind her, Gu Yuchen was still with her, silently guarding her. This time, Ruo Shui is no longer the girl who once fell, but a woman who can confidently face the future. She knows that no matter what the future holds, Gu Yuchen will always be her strongest backing, and she will walk towards a brighter future with him. Underscore 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 un. After Dawn is not a simple story in the entertainment industry, but a story about courage, love, and growth. Ruo Shui got back on his feet through his own efforts, and with the help of Gu Yuchen, he found his own future. It was the dawn of her and a new chapter in her life.